Sunday after Pentecost 2018, and this day is known as Laity Sunday, which means certified lay speakers are asked to bring the message for today. And the Lord has just given me a message for this day, Laity Day. And God gave me this title to bring to you this morning. Now, you've heard the scriptures and you know the story of Job, and I hope that all of you have read that story of Job. And so God has put on my spirit to bring to you the message, trouble, my God, trouble don't last always. Trouble, say it with me, trouble don't last always. Now, if you're going through something, you got to understand that you're just going through for a period of time. Because trouble don't last always if you stay in the Spirit of God. Amen. Most of us realize that we're living in treacherous times. So much trouble is coming in every direction. Yes. In this third week of mystery, in the 38th chapter of the book of Job, we notice that God questions Job from the realm of creation. And not only does he question Job, he demands an answer. And these questions just shook Job to his core. Now, Job is now confronted by God, and where Job once had questions and concerns and complaints, he now is silent. And in spite of all that Job experienced and all the pain that he endured, he is not too proud to be silent. And we can't be too proud to be silent sometimes. Because when we go to God in prayer and ask God to do certain things for us, sometimes we got to stop talking so much. And we're going to have to start listening and stop being so talkative. But we need to listen. Yeah. And that's what Job was not too ashamed to do. We serve a God who has created the universe and all things that's in it. And he's the same God who understands our pain and our brokenness and our humanity. We know that God's hands are big enough to carve out creation, yet intimate enough to comfort us when we are weary and broken down. We may not be able to intellectually understand everything about God, but like Job, we can embrace silent moments to listen to and hear from God. And although we're faced with many trials, we must, like Job, understand that our God is a master builder. And he knows what we are going through. Now we see in Job 14:1 and 2, man who is born of woman is of a few days and full of trouble. He comes forth like a flower and fades away. But you see, that's not the end of the story. All right. Now, this third mystery of Job reveals that although Job has not given up on God, he seems at times to question God's trustworthiness. Like Job, we sometimes forget God's power and knowledge. So this morning, I'm guided to look at the life of Job in his entirety. You see, the key word in the book of Job is the word test. All right. Say the word test with me. Test. Because all of us are going to go through a what? Test. For Job says in the 23rd chapter and the 10th verse, but he knows the way that I take when he has tested me. I shall come forth as what? Pure gold. How many of you know that when we're tested, if we pass the requirements set forth by the word, Romans 8:37 says, yet in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loves us. Then in Romans 8:28, the word says, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and who are called according to his purpose. So when we go through some suffering, suppose. The word says that Job was a righteous man. Yet he goes through a period of some difficult times and trials and tribulations in his life. Let me put a pin here for your consideration. You see, trials and sufferings are for our education and training, which is a difficult lesson for each of us to learn. Sometimes God shakes us up when things seem to be going all right. Sometimes he shakes us up, put us through some things, because he wants to get our attention. The athlete is not put under strict discipline for punishment, but merely to take him ready for the race. Let's take DeFabian for an example. DeFabian does not faithfully go to practice and lift those weights because he's being punished. He knows that he has to prepare himself for the upcoming football game. Valley State worked hard, I'm sure, to win that game yesterday. Even though they won by 1 point, they won. Hallelujah. Consequently, Christ is ever preparing us for the race that is set before us. You got to understand. You got to understand this. No cross, no crown. Say it together. No cross, no crown. Think about this question. Why do godly people suffer? You see, it's easy to get confused about this problem of suffering, because you got to remember that the disciples of Christ thought that suffering was the result of sin in a life. But that's not the key all the time. Let us look at this. The book of Job gives us an entirely different reason for suffering of Job, for himself. You see, Job was being honored by God. It was true that God could trust Job to remain faithful to him despite everything. It would truly be great if all of us would learn to thank God in all of our trials and stop complaining about the difficulties that we're faced with. Because in this time of trouble, we're going through a tunnel, but you got to remember one thing, that God is in the tunnel with us, and he's going to bring us out when he decides it's ready. We could not go through our trials with less, we could go through our trials with less stress. For in our trials and in all of our troubles, he tells us in Philippians 4:19, and God shall supply all of our needs according to his riches and glory. Not some, but all of our needs. In the book of Job, he falls from prosperity to poverty. There's a discussion between Job and his 4 friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, Zophar, Elihu. When you are down and out, friends are usually the first one to come and try to pour their thoughts into your thoughts. And sometimes those thoughts may be good, have good intentions, and sometimes they may have bad intentions. Because Job was blameless and upright and one who feared God and shunned evil, he was a right target for Satan to try to tear him down. For Job was prosperous and a rich man in wealth, yet he honored God. And so when we're trying to do what God wants us to do, when we try our very best to be upright and worship God in spirit and truth, Satan is always just right here on your track, ready to tear you down. And sometimes we have to go back and just say, God, forgive me. We've sinned and fallen short of your glory. But Job stayed faithful to God, and God honored him. When the Lord asked Satan, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil? Satan responds and says, have you not made a hedge around him, around his household, and all around that he has on every side? Stretch out your hand. This is Satan talking. Stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you. to your face. The Lord then tells Satan that all that Job has in your power is in your power. Only do not lay your hand on his soul. The Lord then tells Satan that you can do what you want to do with Job, but just don't touch it. His soul. Now this is the beginning of Job's troubles. Job's servants were killed. All his sheep were killed. All his camels were killed. All of his children were died. You see, Job's trouble had begun, yet he replied, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. And the Lord gave, and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Yet Satan hadn't finished with Job. See, when he's come to you one time, don't you think he's going to leave you. He's going to come again until he tries his very best to break you down. You see, when he comes into our lives, he wants us to just buckle down and be submissive to his will and his way. Sometimes it appears he just won't quit. He keeps coming and coming and coming. Satan makes his second attack on Job. Notice Job does not surrender the first attack. The more we serve a living God, the more Satan invests in our lives. Now Satan takes a second strategy to make Job miserable. Satan says to God, stretch out your hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will surely curse you to your face. So the Lord said to Satan, behold, he's in your hand, but spare his life. Satan then strikes Job with painful boils from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. In the midst of so much misery, Job's wife even tells him, do you still hold your integrity? Curse your God and die. But listen to this man of God. He says, you speak as a foolish woman. In all of Job's trials and tribulations, he did not buckle down to Satan's tricks, nor accept the advice of his friends. Although Job questioned God during his despair, his final response was, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. Now how many of us can respond to our troubles in this life? When the bills are due, our finances have been depleted, and we're down to our last dime. Can we say, though he slay me, yet will I trust him? When sickness comes upon us, can we say, though he slay me, yet will I trust him? When our children go out and try to do all the things that they know that they weren't taught to do, can we say, though he slay me, yet will I trust him? When we're faced with burdens that are so hard to bear, can we say, though he slay me, yet will I trust him? When many responsibilities seem to overtake us, can we say, though he slay me, yet will I trust him? You see, Job said, all of the days of my appointed time, I will wait. I will wait until my change comes. Are we willing to wait? Are we willing to wait on God to renew our strength to get through our trials and tribulations? Do we grow weary in doing that which is right and good in the eyes of our loving Father? Yes, I am the first to admit, sometimes I do grow weary and wonder how much more can I bear. But I do know there is one who says he'll never leave me nor forsake me. I can hang on to those words. How do we know that God is in control of this universe? We know that God alone created the foundations of the earth and all its beings. And we know that God is in control because he's omnipotent. He's all-powerful. He's omniscient. He's all-knowing. and he's omnipresent. He's everywhere at the same time. We know that God is in control because he is our refuge and our strength, an ever-present help in times of trouble. According to Psalm 46, 1 and 3, we know that God is in control because the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and are safe. Then Nehemiah 8:10 says that we are not to grieve in our troubles, for the joy of the Lord is our strength. Yes. Then why do the righteous suffer? The righteous suffer that they may see themselves first. And when we come to the end of ourselves, we will know that God can lift us up. Yes. God is a wise God. Yes. God has a wise purpose in all our suffering because he wants the trial of our faith to work patience. Yes. What can we do in our suffering? Well, James 1:2 says, count it all joy when you fall in various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. You see, through our trials, we have the knowledge to cling to the words, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. Be anxious for nothing, but in all things, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, make your requests known. Yes. Yes. When we're weak, he is strong. Yes. When we're sick, by his stripes we're healed. Yes. In the end, we find Job a chastened, softened servant. Job was broken. He was melted. He was softened so he could say, the hand of God has touched me. God maketh my heart soft. There's a song entitled Spirit of the Living God. Fall fresh on me. Melt me, God. Mold me, God. Fill me, God. Use me, God. This is what happened to Job. He never really saw himself until he saw God. Even though Job was ready to reason with God, as many of us do today, God turned the tide, and Job's prosperity was given back to him with a double portion. Let us remember that God allows his children to suffer, to reveal character, to set forth a life's lesson, and to bring to light some hidden realizations. Now, in conclusion, we must understand God's ways. Yes. The more we will love him and put our trust in him, we must trust God. Yes. Yes. You see, many of us have had some good days, and we've had some hills to climb. But in all our troubles, we really don't have to complain because of the goodness of our Lord Jesus Christ. Remember, in all our trials and in all our tribulations, trouble don't last always. Hold on to God's unchanging hand, because a change will surely come. Yes. Amen? Amen. 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 I've had some good days. Yes. And I've had some hills to climb. I've had some weary days. And some sleepless nights. But